Thank you, and good afternoon. We are quite honored to be here today. My name is Milan Carroll with the Robert Packard Center for ALS Research at Johns Hopkins, and it is my privilege to present our team's idea. The Innovative Solutions Consortium and the Robert Packard Center for ALS Research have been collaborating now for almost 3 years, ever since the ISC was founded. And this is really another very exciting opportunity for us. With me today are Steve Hunt, the Executive Director of the Innovative Solutions Consortium, Richard Theed, a retired Marine with ALS, and his beautiful wife, Laska. Richard actually is an amazing person who has dedicated himself to helping other veterans get the benefits, equipment, and support that they need. And frankly, he is the inspiration behind the idea we are presenting today. ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a neurodegenerative disease that leads to the death of motor neurons. The causes of ALS are largely unknown. When motor neurons die, muscle function fails, patients become paralyzed, and ultimately they die, often from respiratory complications, and in the majority of cases, within 3 to 5 years. There is no effective therapy for ALS, no effective therapy to halt or significantly slow its progress. And for that reason, it is often and accurately referred to as a death sentence. Sadly, the military and military veterans are approximately twice as likely to contract ALS as the general population. And again, we don't know why. Our best estimates tell us that right now, there may be as many as 4,000 to 6,000 veterans living with ALS, and sadly, all of them will die of ALS. That makes the odds of surviving war infinitely greater than the odds of surviving your battle with ALS. First identified in 1869, ALS continues to pose some very significant challenges for us today. Right now, there is only one FDA-approved therapy on the market, and it does help some patients live longer, but only for a matter of months. Over the past 5 to 7 years, however, we have made some very significant and important strides in our understanding of ALS and have new and better tools to understand the mechanisms of this disease. Here are some truths about ALS. ALS is not a simple disease. There are multiple disease pathways that lead to the death of motor neurons. Caring for ALS patients is extraordinarily complex, and it is extraordinarily expensive. We now know that animal models are not good predictors of which therapies will work in human beings. Patients can contribute to various studies, but we know that in most cases they will not benefit from those studies. We also realize that there is not likely to be a silver bullet or a single therapy or cure that will apply to all patients. And since 1995, only one drug has been approved, while dozens upon dozens of drugs have failed in clinical trials. That brings us to December of 2013. At an international ALS conference in Milan, Italy, about 1,000 ALS researchers and experts agreed that it was time to embrace a new paradigm, the paradigm of personalized medicine for ALS. That brings us to our three-pronged approach, which we call Operation ALS. First of all, in Operation ALS, we will put veterans at the very center of a sharply focused prototype of personalized medicine designed specifically around them. Thanks to our capabilities in the research community with induced pluripotent stem cells, we can now take a simple skin biopsy from a living patient and grow neurons and other brain cells in the lab. These patients in a petri dish, who are a genetic match to the patients from which the cells were harvested, can be used to accelerate the subtyping of ALS, accelerate drug screening and drug discovery, and support translational research. One of our most important goals is to know which patients and which disease subtypes are most likely to benefit from a specific therapy. Downstream, this might have very significant impact on trial design, and we look forward to working with new industry partners on this important issue in the future. Number 2, we plan to recruit veterans to volunteer for a new mission that we call ALS, My Last Mission. We will ask them to actively contribute to the ALS Bioregistry, which is right now sponsored and in development by the CDC. We will ask them to provide informed consent to authorize greater access to biosamples that currently live in the Department of Defense Joint Pathology Biorepository and other similar collections. And we will also ask them to commit to post-mortem brain and spinal tissue donation to the Veterans Administration Brain Bank. These contributions will help support longer-term research and development initiatives, and it reinforces our commitment to collaboration in very critical research. We will also launch Operation ALS, a website that's in development right now. This online community, targeted specifically at veterans with ALS, will provide a forum for peer-to-peer communication among ALS veterans and their comrades. It will provide assistance and advice to ensure that they receive the benefits and the care to which they are entitled. It will provide a platform through which we can collaborate with our partners. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, it will provide a two-way communication channel to share and discuss research strategies, research needs, and research opportunities. So why our team and why this project? Winning this challenge and gaining industry recognition for it would be an amazing start to what is a critically needed effort. The proceeds of our award will let us launch the Operation ALS website, meet some very ambitious recruiting goals for patients, refine the personalized medicine approach we're talking about, create cell lines from a very small pilot group of patients, and help raise the additional funds that we need to expand the program to additional patients. There is a clear and compelling need for action. Men and women right now are dying every day, and ALS is being diagnosed among veterans at a very alarming rate. They need our help. The community within Operation ALS will be a bridge between veterans who have ALS and the many partners who are supporting this community and who want to support this community. The contribution that veterans make through Operation ALS will have a very lasting impact on research, and it will also provide dignity to our veterans and to their struggle by giving them an important role in the mission of solving this terrible disease. The personalized medicine paradigm and the cutting-edge tools we propose to use, like pluripotent stem cells and genetic screening and analysis, is an important start to identifying which patients and which subtypes of patients might respond to which specific therapies. We must be able to match the right therapy to the right patient if we are to overcome this disease. May is ALS Awareness Month, and May 26th is Memorial Day. We suggest that this May is the perfect time to boldly step into this new initiative. We suggest that this May is the right time to bring the promise of personalized medicine to veterans with ALS and help those who really have no other options. May we have your support and vote. Thank you very much.
We'd love to give the chance for judges to ask 5 minutes of questions.
So thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
My name is Orlando Gonzalez. I'm from Picori. And the question that I have is regarding the sustainability or maintenance of the My Community part. So I'm 38. I've been a Facebook user probably since I was 33. But it's starting to sort of die off for me. I like realize I don't visit it as often. I don't go back to it as often just because it's not calling me.
Right.
So what is it that you propose will happen in the My Community for the participants to constantly be engaged and be users of the tool versus sort of, the first hurrah that happens when it comes out? There'll be usability and there'll be high usage, but then what? How will they continue to be engaged?
Right, so I'm going to answer that in two ways. First of all, ALS patients, especially as the disease progresses, are very amenable to online tools and technologies. In a lot of cases, it offers one of the most important and significant ways for them to communicate with others as they lose their ability to speak and to move and to get around in the real world. The online community really does become a magnet through which they can still maintain relationships and form bonds. The second aspect of this, and why we think there's so much promise in targeting the veteran community, is that veterans and military personnel have a very tight bond. If you talk to a Marine, Semper Fi Marine, he will tell you that he is first and foremost a soldier. And there's a great deal of affection and a great deal of camaraderie and community that's built in to that specific community. So we think those two things, the fact that ALS patients often require technology to be able to communicate, and that there's a natural built-in bond among veterans in that community that will lead them to gravitate there and remain a part of that mission.
Thanks for this great presentation on this very important unmet medical need. I had a question about the iPS cells and the promise of the disease in the dish analysis. Are there surrogate phenotypes that are present in cell culture that you feel would be predictive or illustrative of ALS pathology such that drug screens could be carried out?
Yes, in fact, I think one of the most promising, initiated first with a gene discovery that occurred in the fall of 2011 called C9orf72. It's a genetic mutation. It's a repeat expansion. And essentially, when we replicate using iPS cells, cell lines from C9 patients and screen those against antisense therapies, there was recently a paper published that showed there is a rescuing benefit to the neuron of the application of antisense therapies. So in that case in particular, there seemed to be some evidence that in that particular target with these specific types of drugs, there is some potential benefit. Again, this lets us subtype the patients that might be amenable to that therapy, and it helps us understand that this therapy will likely not be applicable to those patients who do not carry that specific target.
I guess I had one other follow-up question. In the written proposal, but not in the short presentation time you had here, you mentioned also collecting genetic database on pre-ALS patients. Is that still a goal, and how many individuals would have to be screened, and what period of time would you expect to be able to gain some information on risk genes prior to diagnosis?
Right. So one of the challenges with gaining pre-diagnosis in the genetic in the familial forms of ALS, where the genes are in some cases well known, the genes that cause ALS are well known. There are some families and some members who know that they carry that gene. So one of the challenges is to get individuals screened who are at risk for carrying a familial form of the disease, and then getting them into the community where they might want to participate and be tested. Actually, there are some genetic clinics already. The NIH has one, for instance, around C9orf specifically, with a longitudinal study, an observational study, to get pre-symptomatic individuals enrolled. The other opportunity that we believe exists is the Department of Defense biorepository has upwards of 50 million samples that have been taken over time from military personnel who enter the military, and their serum samples that are taken throughout the career of a veteran. Right now, there are some challenges to accessing that data. We believe that with a concentrated voice from veterans, we might be able to use that as a leverage to open greater access to existing repositories that would include samples from far before the initial onset of symptoms. And there may be some promise held there.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.